Welcome to Omega Learning Platform. We welcome new viewers to our platform also. We recommend that you subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share with your friends. This is lesson 2 of bearings. In previous lessons, we talked about bearings without scale representation. This one is bearings with scale representation. So apart from learning how to describe bearing between 2 points, you will also learn how to make scale representation of bearing between 2 points, and also how to use scaled bearing drawings to estimate distance between 2 or even more than 2 points. Let's look at an examples. The diagram below shows the bearing of B from A. Given 1 cm equals 1 kilometer, describe the bearing of A from B. So the diagram that you see here, this 50 degrees is the bearing B from A. We now want to work out the bearing A from B and also show the distance between them. So like we learned in previous lesson, it means B to A. So we need to go to B. This is B, and we need to know the angle from the north line all the way to this line connecting point A. So we start, corresponding angles are equal because 50 degrees is corresponding to this 50 here. That is a straight line. That makes this line 180. So the total angle from the north line will give us 180, so 230 degrees. We now know the bearing of A from B, but how far apart are they? We need to measure. And from the ruler, it shows that that's 7 cm, and 1 cm is 1 kilometer. So 7 cm will be what? 7 kilometers. So you need to include that in your bearing answer. So we say the bearing of A from B is 230 degrees, and A and B are 7 kilometers apart. How you frame a sentence doesn't matter. What matters is you must know bearing of A from B is 230 degrees. Distance between A and B is what? 7 kilometers. So that's what the mark scheme will be expecting you to write. Angle given, distance given. 7 kilometers apart. On paper, it's 7 cm, that is sketch, but on the actual ground, it's 7 kilometers. Let's look at second example. Bearings of point between 2 points. This is a question showing bearings of point between 2 points. The location Y is on a bearing 130 degrees from X, and the bearing of Y from Z is 240. Find the location Y and mark it on a diagram. So we already have Z and X given. So let's find X to Y is 130. X to Y. So X from the north line, we need to create an obtuse angle of 130 degrees. So we need to measure 130 degrees, and that is my 130 degrees. Make a straight line. So we know Y is on this particular line, but we don't know exactly where. So we leave it. Then we go to the other part. Z, 240 degrees. From the north line, create 240 degrees, which is a reflex angle. We measure that also. 240 all the way, north line all the way. That's 240. Mark it. Draw a line. The point of intersection tells us where Y will be. So we now know where Y is. If the question wanted us to find the distance between X and Y with the scale given, we will just have to measure and convert the centimeters into the whatever scale that's given us. The same way, if you want to know Y and Z, the distance apart, given a scale, we just have to measure and convert these centimeters into the exact distance on the ground. So this is how to locate a point between 2 points given bearings. Next example. this bearing of 2 points. Two schools, A and B, are 7 kilometers apart. And the bearing of A from B is 280 degrees. Using scale 1 cm equals 1 kilometer, construct a diagram showing the relative positions of A and B. So we are supposed to do sort of a sketch. We are going to use proper instruments to really do an actual presentation of this. In previous lessons, we were just using sketches. This one, we're going to use scale drawing. So we start. A from B means B to A. So with B, with a north line, make a reflex angle of 2, measure a reflex angle of 280. Okay, so I'm going to measure 280 degrees. That's all the way from north line. That's my 280. Now, I know the distance between them is 7 kilometers. So even though I'm going to make a straight line, I need to make the straight line 7 cm long, because 7 kilometers will look like 7 cm on paper according to the scale. Because if 1 is 1 kilometer, 2 is 2 kilometer, 7 is 7 kilometer, in that order. So I need to measure 7 cm. As you can see, that 7 cm, the end of the 7 cm is where the other point will be, which is point A. I've now been able to locate where A is. So we've now been able to use scales to represent exactly what this want us to do. Relative positions of A and B. This is where it's going to be like. Distance 7 cm, angle exactly 280 degrees. Okay. Now let's look at a typical exam question. A tennis court T has a bearing of 80 degrees, which is 0.80 degrees from a library. The library and the tennis court are 14 kilometers apart. A school is 10 kilometers from the tennis court at a bearing of 110 degrees. Using 1 cm equals 2 kilometers, show the position of the tennis court, the library, and the school. So there's so much involved in this question, and at the end we have to estimate the distance between the school and the library. You need to try and go step by step. So we have a tennis court, a library, and a school. So from a library, which means our starting point should be from the library. So library to tennis court, create or measure an angle 80 degrees. So from the library, create your north line, measure 80 degrees. Okay, that's my 80 degrees. But the distance between the library and the tennis court is 14 kilometers. And you need to understand the scale. 1 cm is 2 kilometers. So if it is 14 kilometers, what should that be? 2 times 7 is 14. So 1 times 7, 7 cm. So measure 7 cm. Okay, that's my 7 cm. The end point of it will be my tennis court. So the first one is done. I now know my position of my library and the tennis court. Let's move on with the school. A school is 10 kilometers from the tennis court at a bearing 110 degrees. From the tennis court at a bearing 110 degrees. So from the tennis court, also from tennis court north pole or north line, we need to measure 110. That's 110, but the distance is 10 kilometers. 1 cm is 2 kilometers. 10 kilometers, 2 times 5 is 10. So 1 times 5, 5 cm. Measure 5 cm. Okay, so I've now been able to show the location of the library, the tennis court, and the school. So I've now, that's the A. I've now shown the positions now. Now let's go to B. How do you estimate the distance between the school and the library? All we need to do is to measure the distance, and from the measurement, we convert it with our scale. Put your ruler down to measure the distance. It's 11.5 according to my measurement. That is in centimeters. So just use a bit of conversion to convert that. If 1 cm is 2 kilometers, 11.5 will be what? 1 times 11.5 will give you 11.5 cm. So whatever you do to one side, do to the other side. So multiply 2 by 11.5, and that will give us 23 kilometers. So we can say the estimate of the distance between the school and the library is 23 kilometers. So distance is now calculated. So these are simple bearing questions that you may encounter in examination. All you need to know is how to measure your angles, how to do a bit of conversion, and how to calculate missing angles using alternate or corresponding and allied angles, and you'll be sorted out in bearings. And that leads us to the end of our lesson on bearings. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Look forward to posting more videos on some topics that most people have requested. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, share with your friends, and like this video. Thank you very much.